My video production has slowed down a little bit as of late after buying a new house. It's been pretty exhausting as my wife and I have spent the majority of our free time getting the place in good shape. Water pipes had to be replaced, landscaping had to be done, trees had to be chopped down. It needed new paint, exterior and interior, and don't get me wrong, it's all been worth it. The place is starting to look really great. The things people say about home ownership really are true. Once it's your place, everything is different. Every little problem is worth fixing because you're the one who owns it. You're the one who's going to have to look at it. It's your family who's going to have to deal with it in perpetuity. And after the completion of each home improvement project, you can really feel a sense of the whole thing coming together, a real sense of accomplishment as you look at what you've done and what you've built and what you've worked on together, what you're providing for your family and what you'll carry into the future. I'm also very aware of what kind of blessing this is. The type of ownership that I'm now experiencing is increasingly rare among my generation. Don't get me wrong, I'm doing this much later than my parents did and their parents before them. The millennial generation is still well behind the 8 ball on this kind of thing, but I know many of the people younger than me might never get this kind of chance the way things are going, and of course, that's not an accident. Home prices have been ridiculously inflated by the baby boom generation, but we also have massive investment firms coming in and buying up huge swaths of residential properties, specifically with the intention of turning them all into rentals, to basically price any potential young homeowners out of the market and force them to rent pretty much indefinitely. In their more dystopian moments, the elites will even admit this out loud. You have the World Economic Forum putting out videos about Build Back Better and how you'll own nothing and you'll rent everything and this will make you happier. And yes, I do think that the economic component is definitely a huge key. I mean, it's very obvious that these people are doing a full court press to try to get the average person to think that perpetually being in some kind of renter economy where they can slowly drain the blood out of you forever like some kind of rootless serf is absolutely the best possible future. But I think in addition to the economics, there's also a spiritual and psychological aspect as well. It's very clear that the ruling class wants the average person to stay in a perpetual state of infantilization. So much of the propaganda that is churned out and that we are bombarded with every single day is designed to keep you from having the kinds of experiences that make you an adult. Everyone is encouraged to stay in college and extend their adolescence as long as possible, 4, 8 years, maybe even more. Come out with too much debt so it's impossible for you to be able to do something like buy a home or start a family right away. Jump directly into some kind of soul-crushing job where you're overworked and underpaid, unable to pay back this debt, unable to climb out of this hole, and terrified to go around having any kind of actual relationships because they could possibly jeopardize your status as a corporate drone and interrupt the steady stream of income you need to pay off your ever-mounting pile of debt. If you must have some kind of relationship, if you must have some kind of human interaction, then you're encouraged to make sure that it's casual and meaningless. Don't commit to someone. Don't get married. That's so backwards. Think of all the things that could go wrong. Think about all of the fun you're missing out on. Instead, more and more people are encouraged to develop some kind of increasingly obscure sexual identity in order to further complicate bonding and make having a stable family with children virtually impossible. Actually, I think making sure that adults don't interact with children on a regular basis is actually key to their agenda on a number of levels. When you become responsible for the well-being of children, you immediately understand how impressionable they are. How desperate they are for things like discipline, structure, security, and affirmation. It immediately becomes clear how responsible you must become, and notions of autonomy or agency of a young child are really put into perspective. This leads you to understanding how natural and essential hierarchies are. It teaches you about the nature of leadership and competence. When you fail, something that you care about deeply suffers. Your future, the future of your family, suffers. You feel that viscerally. People becoming more conservative when they have families and kids isn't just a meme, it's real. Obviously, this doesn't immediately work for everyone. There are plenty of people who have kids and then just go on being drug addicts or whatever. But having that kind of experience, having that crucible, is something that definitely increases your chances of transitioning into responsible adulthood. And the demolition of traditional families has ensured that more and more people instead turn to surrogate institutions offered by the state instead of having these natural experiences that would help mature them and help them to understand essential truths about the world. And in many cases, the progressive religion is so deeply infiltrated into our culture that even those that do take on those responsibilities of ownership and family can't absorb the lessons. Still, cutting off those experiences at the root is definitely the most effective strategy, and certainly the one that they are pushing the hardest. They know that it's impossible to be forged in a fire when there is no fire with which to forge. They know that allowing people to go through the natural cycles of life is dangerous. They know that there are truths in those cycles that are revealed as people have those experiences. They know that taking your place in the great chain of being among your ancestors is something that is deep and spiritual and roots you, and they do not like it. They do not want it. It reminds me of a famous quote by Cicero. I'm actually not a huge Cicero fan. I think he's kind of a jerk. I think he's kind of a two-faced weasel. I'm more of a Caesar guy. I know everybody's shocked here. But I do think that Cicero has an important piece of the truth here. He says, quote, "To be ignorant of what occurred before you were born is to remain always a child. For what is the worth of a human life unless it's woven into the life of our ancestors by the records of history?" End quote. And this is what the powers that be want for us most. They want us to remain always a child. Rootless, without a family or a future, nothing to fight for, nothing to identify with, no community, no religion, no creed. There's a reason that many different royal courts throughout history had a tradition of putting eunuchs in positions of managerial power. In addition to the fact that they couldn't mess around with any of the royal ladies, without a family or a future to fight for, it was often much easier to control eunuchs with pleasures. When there's no possibility of building generational wealth, no lineage or clan with which to accumulate power that could challenge the regime, the ruling elites feel far more secure. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't some kind of polemic against video games or hobbies. I certainly have those things, and leisure is absolutely valuable. Nor is this some kind of cynical shot at those who haven't yet obtained those big milestones in life. The whole reason that I'm making this video is I know that those things have been made difficult for a reason. Those stumbling blocks have been placed in your way for a reason. But what this is a call not to give up. These things are important. These things are worth fighting for. These things are things that can change you and make you into someone stronger and better. The modern world wants you to remain always a child, but you can choose a different path. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and click like. If you haven't subscribed, now's a great time to do so. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter or you'd like to support my work on Subscribestar, like the amazing people who are currently having their names shown on the screen, you can follow the links that are below the video. If you'd like to support the channel by going over and picking something up at the merch store, you'll also find that link there. And as always, if you want to go ahead and subscribe over at my Rumble or my Odyssey channel, I really encourage you to do so. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, I'll talk to you next time.